everybody, my name is Jenna and today is BOOKMAS Day 7. Today's topic is the top 7 sequels / finales that you read in 2016. Just as I've done with pretty much every day previously, I'm going to be taking a bit of liberty with this topic because, I did read a lot of sequels, but I didn't read a lot of finales, so I've kind of included in this one prequel, I've included a kind of sequel / companion novel, and I've also included a sequel finale that I really shouldn't be including, but I'm going to include it anyway. As always, I'm going to be counting down to my number 1 pick, so starting at number 7 on my list is The Last Star by Rick Yancey. Now let me explain this one. So I really was not a huge fan of this book. I thought that Rick Yancey could have wrapped up this series so much better than what he actually did. I'm including this book on this list because it is one of the only finales that I read, and I do think that I'm glad that the series is over. I will say that. I loved the first book. I thought it was fantastic. The second book was a bit for me, so I went into this one with a little bit of trepidation, and honestly it really didn't live up to my expectations, so wasn't a great sequel / finale, so I wouldn't normally include it in like my top 7 list, but it's one of the only ones that I read, so I kind of don't have a choice. Coming in at number 6 on my list is a book that you would have seen plenty on my channel over the last couple of days, and that is Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. So this book is the sequel / companion novel to The Giver, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this book, but fun is probably not the right word. It's a pretty depressing book when you really sort of get into it and think about it, but I really enjoyed this one. It's about a girl called Kira. She was born with a mutated leg, basically, so because of her disfiguration, the rest of the community doesn't like her and thinks that she shouldn't be allowed to live, so she sort of has to prove herself throughout the novel, and it's really good. It's such a quick little read, so I really enjoyed this one. It was very thought-provoking, and I thought it was a really good sequel to The Giver, which was such a weird book, and considering it was like a sequel / companion because it sort of was set in the same world but you had nothing to do with each other, it was really interesting to get to sort of dive into a bigger, you got to see more of the world that Lois Lowry created in The Giver, and I really liked that about this book. Coming in at number 5 on my list is the prequel that I wanted to talk about, which is technically a finale because I'm pretty sure it's the last book we're going to get in this series, and that is The Fever Code by James Dashner. This book was the prequel we had all been waiting for. It was the Maze Runner book everyone had been waiting for. I got every answer I could possibly have wanted from this book. Finally found out why that certain character that I will not mention because I hate her guts is such a terrible, horrible person, and I knew there was a reason that I didn't like her at all throughout the series. This book answers that reason, so I really loved this one. It was great to get to see all of my favorite gladers again. It was great to finally get answers to all of the questions that I had ever wanted to know, so I really liked this one. I did a full book review / book talk of this one, which I will leave link in the description box below if you want to check out more of my deeper thoughts on it. Coming in at number 4 on my list is the finale that I probably shouldn't be including, but I'm going to include it anyway, and that is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by J.K. Rowling. I reread this book this year. I didn't read it for the first time. I read it for the first time when it came out, like back in 2007 or something. I have a very vivid memory of sitting at my desk at school and I was reading it, and my teacher came up to me during reading times and was like, "Is that a good book?" I'm like, "Yes, of course it is. It's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows." So I have a really vivid memory of that happening, which is so random. But basically, I wanted to include this book in this video because, like I said, I didn't read a lot of sequels or finales this year, but I did reread this one, and it reminded me why it is such a good finale. Honestly, all your questions get answered and you get to really see an end to Harry's journey, but it's such a satisfying one that you feel really accomplished having read all 7 books. So I'm really, really glad that I reread this series this year, and I'm so glad that I got a chance to reread this book because I just love it so much. Coming in at number 3 on my list is one that is definitely very controversial in the literary world. I know a lot of people really love the book, a lot of people really hated the book, and I understand where they're coming from, but personally me, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was everything that I ever wanted, and that is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by Jack Thorne, but also by J.K. Rowling and John Tiffany, and I really loved this book. I thought it was a fantastic sequel. Everyone sort of said to me it reads like a bad fanfiction, and yes, it kind of does, but honestly, plays are meant to be seen, they're not meant to be read, and everyone that I've ever spoken to who has gone to see the play has said that it is fantastic, out of the park, 5 out of 5 stars, the most incredible thing they've ever seen. So for that, I don't think it translates well into a book, so I personally loved it. I thought that it was such a fun expansion of Harry's world, getting to see a little bit of the next generation, getting to see a little bit of what Harry, Ron and Hermione get up to after Hogwarts. I loved getting to see that, and I really loved this book, so I don't care if other people hated it. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and honestly, as a huge Harry Potter fan, I think that this book slash play did the series justice. So that's my little 2 cents that I sort of wanted to put in there, but that's one of the reasons why this was one of my favorite sequels slash finales that I've read this year. So numbers 2 and 1 on my list, I really struggled to pick between them. I've been struggling. I read them both really early on this year. Like, one I read in, I think, the end of March, early April, and the other one I read in May. So ever since then, I've been really struggling because I knew I would have to do this at some point. I'd have to pick, you know, favorites, and it was really hard to pick, and I finally have decided. So coming in at number 2 on my list, I don't have a physical copy with me at the moment because I did lend it out to my grandmother to read because I thought she would love them, and she is loving it. That is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I loved this book. Everything about it was just perfect. I mean, Sarah managed to up the end. She upped everything in this novel, and I cannot believe how great of an expansion it was to get to see more of Feyre as well, more of Rhysand. I mean, he is just like, everything about him is amazing. I did a full book review of this book, which I will leave linked in the description box below. It's only the second review that I ever did on my channel, so if you want a bit of a laugh, if you weren't around then, definitely go check it out because it's basically me just like freaking out about Rhysand the entire time. So it's not a great review, but it's up there. And of course that means coming in at number 1 on my list is Raelia by Lynette Noni. This is definitely my favorite sequel that I read this year. It's obviously not a finale because we have 3 more beautiful books to go, but this book was fantastic. It just expanded Alex as well. We got to spend so much more time with these characters, which I absolutely adored. We got to meet new characters, so all of the Mayerins. I always struggle with how to say that. Getting to meet all the Mayerins was amazing. Getting to know more about Avon was awesome. Getting to spend more time with Caden was amazing. I mean, it's not like I want Caden and Alex to be together or anything. Alex for life. And I just loved everything about this book. So for me, it was definitely my favorite sequel that I read of 2016. So there you have it. Those were my top 7 favorite sequels slash finales that I read in 2016. Of course, one of them is not one of my favorites, but it's one of the only ones that I read, so I kind of had to go with it. Let me know in the comment section below which sequels or finales you read this year that you thought were your absolute favorites. And if you liked this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.